So today we're going to talk about commission painting and what exactly you're trying to do when you start. Now, the first thing you really want to, or the first thing we want to get into is how do you know people will be interested? Now, the first part is maybe you go to the game store and people are complimenting. Like maybe you're playing a game with a couple buddies and they're complimenting you on your army. People that walk by and see the game, they go, "Oh wow, look at that model. It's really nice." Then that's the first clue, maybe. Maybe you paint well enough that you have friends that commission you to paint stuff for them. And when that happens, that's kind of the second step. And, maybe you looked at a couple commission sites, seeing what they're charging, and kind of realized, wow, I could make some decent money if I got into this. So, now that you're interested, how do you get your name out there? Well, the cheapest way is to do it locally. If you go to a game store all the time, and maybe you know the owner or the guys that work there, and talk to them about what it takes, if they have display cases and things like that. See what it takes to get a model in there. Some places require that you pay rent, like the local store near me, and that's to get a spot in their case, but that's more for people that are they have armies that they want to keep at the store, so they don't have to keep bringing it in, which is kind of a cool thing. And it's limited space, so you have to pay for it. So that's not really a big surprise. So the other thing when they're on display is you want to have business cards, and that's the second part, which is have business cards to be next to the display models and also behind the counter, so people say, hey, I got these models, and do you know anyone that paints them? Because I just want to play, I don't want to paint. Then the guys behind the counter can say, well, we know a guy, here's his card. The other reason to have it is so that you can have cards in your army bag. So when you have the guys that come by and compliment your army, hey, nice army, this and that, and you can say, yeah, man, if you're interested, there you go, you got your business card. And that's a lot better than, getting a piece of paper and a pen and saying, hey, give me a call, things like that. Now, what kind of goes into the second part, which is creating your web presence. Now, you could have a business card and, make up a name for your commission business, or just have your name on it with your phone number, things like that. But it's really nice to be able to have a website to go to. Take yourself serious as an artist and get a website up. Show a portfolio of works that you have done, and once you have that in mind, and how you're gonna start to see how these things work together, is you have the Google bomb, right, which is YouTube and Blogger. The reason you have those, and even if you paste the same things that you do on your website on all these different things, is your searchability. When people go searching on the internet, and Google's the biggest search engine, and the second biggest search engine is YouTube, and it's owned by both companies, so their results from their programs always show up first. So if you have a commission business and you have a blog, depending on which one's popular, you increase your chances of it actually showing up in a search. When people say, hey, I'm looking for commission painters that paint whatever, it's kind of a good thing to have. Now, what do you do on YouTube? Okay, you need to have some way to take pictures or a video camera. And the thing about the commission business, you have to kind of spend some money, because you have to get a decent camera. You don't have to get a DSLR, but when nowadays, if you look at a point and click, they usually end up being about the same price as a entry level DSLR. And DSLRs are nice to have. That's what I use. I use an entry level Sony A300, and I take my photos with that. And they have the nice manual controls, and you can switch out lenses if you need to. But the other thing is, when you have a camera, and you're going to do a commission business where you're going to have to take pictures and show people that are, these are prospects and people that could be customers of yours, you know, you want to be able to take good pictures. Take the time to learn, read a tutorial on how to photograph things. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, people who photograph for eBay. There's all kinds of tutorials that say, hey, this is the kind of lighting you should get. These are the settings you want on your camera. Boom, boom, boom. Take the time and learn how to take good pictures. Cell phone pictures don't do it. Don't blame the camera because and don't use flash. God, please don't use flash. You don't need to get into macro mode. You don't need to get right up on the model. Just, get a close enough to where you can see details, but you don't need to get the macro lens where you can zoom in and, see better than the human eye can see. Any model is going to look pretty bad when you get that close. So, learn how to take pictures. Then put up pictures on your site. Don't just have a photo bucket. You can use photo bucket or something like that, but there's plenty of free site builders out there. Wix is one of them if you like the flashy photo galleries and flash websites. Yeah, flashy literally, because that's what they do, is flash websites. And it's one of those what you see is what you get sites where you drag and drop. All right, page 2, I want to have contact information. It's pretty cool. They don't have ads flying in everywhere. It just says this site was built by Wix, and they have maybe a little tag in the corner that people can click and go to that site too. And then you can pay a premium if you actually want to sell products. I sold my washes and pigments on there for a while, and that'd be one thing to do. Get your portfolio up on a website. Then you want to have a blogger page where you can post updates, so that way you have a place. If you don't want to update your website all the time, except for when you have your finished stuff, if you want to do work in progress stuff, that's a good place to go for blogger. And then when your model's done, once you've done your army or whatever, post pictures of that on your website, and then do a YouTube showcase. YouTube showcase can be done using photos and making a slideshow of some sort. And if you can take video, then go ahead and use that. And you can just do Windows Movie Maker or some, free program to get your stuff done. Now, you have your websites. Yeah, you got your websites, you've done the local thing. Now, it's just a matter of waiting and doing good work. And the things that you can do in the meantime is stuff that I plugged about, which is painting special characters, putting them up for sale. Could do eBay, since now they have that thing where you only pay them when you sell an item, so you get free listings and things like that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you do good work, word's gonna spread around really good, and if you don't, then that'll spread around too. And that has to do with like work ethics as a business. Like, our community is so small that if you screw someone over and they tell people about it on a forum or something, it's gonna spread really quick, and you don't want that on your shoulders, and that'll bury your business. The big question everyone asks is, how do you figure prices? Well, if you figure that you want to pay yourself, let's just say you want to pay yourself $20 an hour, and it takes you 5 minutes to paint a tactical marine to tabletop standard. No one's going to pay you $100 to paint one troop model at tabletop standard. And that's just, really it comes down to you and your speed. Now, as painters, when you're painting for yourself and for your army, we're always trying to get better at what we're doing. You're trying to skill up, and your standards constantly rising. And what you have to do is decide for yourself, what's the standard that I'm going to paint and let people pay me for, and what's a standard that's, decent enough that I can, or simple enough to where you can charge a competitive price. So if you're going to charge like $8 a miniature for just tabletop on a regular Space Marine troop, that's cool. If you're paying yourself $20 an hour or more, you need to paint those from start to finish. You need to do at least 4 an hour. How do you do that? Airbrushes, but seriously, I mean, airbrushes will, as a commission painter, it's going to be your best friend. So if you don't have one, that needs to be in your, pre-commission business, buy, program. And I said, a lot right then, but that's the thing is you need to do the math and say, okay, I need to, on a normal one color Space Marine, I can get 4 knocked out in an hour. If you get a complex scheme, like a quartered scheme, like Helen Griffin's, you can charge more for that because it's a more difficult scheme. You can't just 3-color up airbrush. You're going to actually have to go in there and pick a color and quarter it out and do a little bit more work. So you charge more for that because it's going to take longer to paint those guys. So you have to kind of balance it out. Looking at other commission websites and seeing what their prices are pretty good ways to gauge it. And I'm talking about the big ones. You know who they are. I'm not going to name them. But look at their prices, see what people are paying, and if you can paint better than them quickly, then you can charge, at least the same, if not more. So, and if you paint slower and then at a higher standard, then there's a premium there. But at the same time, painting at one standard, like saying, oh, I always paint every model the best I can every time, that's a really easy way to burn yourself out. I'll tell you that my highest selling, option for armies was painting and dipping. And I hated doing it because as an artist, it doesn't help you grow at all. And it's just robot work. You're base coating everything. You don't even have to be like exactly in the lines because the dip will fall in there and make that line go away. So it was really fast. It was cheap. You could charge, in a night, I think me and a buddy could paint up 50 models or something like that, and then dip them, let them dry up the next day, throw some basing material on it, and then varnish it, good to go. And in a 2-day turnaround, get, 100 models done. And people loved it because you can charge a minimum amount and they can get 2 models done for the price of 1. Dipping looks really clean, and that was it. And that was the best selling thing. So don't set one standard. Tabletop is subjective because what tabletop means to you may be different from someone else. Tabletop is what you're comfortable putting on the table. Other people think it's tournament legal, or it looks good on the tabletop, but I mean, it's a decent standard, not your best, and whatever. You need to set your goal and say, cool, tabletop's going to be 1 color, a wash, cleanup, and then an extreme highlight on the edges of like armor and stuff. And then you need to stick to that. Don't do any more, and time yourself. Boom, there you go. And once you've got it down, then cool. I mean, that the price thing is, the whole thing is about balance and finding that point to where you're like, I can paint really nice and clean. Maybe it's not something that you'd want in your army, but someone else, it'll blow their mind. And no matter how simple it is, just make it clean. That's the most important thing. Look at Worthy Painting. Their stuff is all clean. I don't care what level people are getting it at. They all have the same clean lines to them. And if you're good at freehand, that's a premium upgraded item that you can do for people and charge more for it. Magnets also, people need magnetizing. Charge $1 per magnet per hole. So automatically it's going to be $2 because the magnet has to attach to something. So people charge you that, charge them because you're going to do a lot of work magnetizing and getting things to fit. Plus, if they're magnetizing, that means there's extra options that you have to paint, and you can charge more for those. So it's just a matter of finding that place. And in a business that's so, you get people who are, I want to create a commission business, and they float away, and it's because that happens. Either burnout, they weren't charging enough. And that's the thing is, you might really like painting Space Marines, but someone might say, hey, how about you paint me some pink Tau or something like that, and it may not be something that you really want to paint. And that's where the money comes in, is that you need to be being paid enough to where you can rough yourself through the army and say, what, I'm just going to get it done. And that's what you're going to rely on. If you're getting crumbs as far as payment goes, or you're trading models, things like that. That's a way to do it. The other thing is that once you do lock in a customer and it's time to get payment, don't ever let them pay you all at once. Let them pay you half as a deposit, non-refundable, because you're, putting them in your queue, and that way if they back down or something like that, they don't get their money back. And what that does is it separates the BS people versus the ones who are serious. And the ones who are serious have money, and they'll give you the money half up front, no problem. And then what that does, giving you half up front, even if they offer, the reason that you don't take the other half is once you have already been paid, it's very hard to motivate yourself to kind of, finish the army. So you take half up front, let them pay the other half later, no problem. Because once the money runs out and you're like, crap, I need to finish this stuff, then you have the motivation to do it because you got all this other money that needs to come to you. Now you finish your army and you tell the person, hey, I'm done with your army. How long do you give them before you start to, worry? I always say 60 days. Give them 60 days to pay the difference. And you have to say this. When you lock down a customer before money's changed, you need to tell them the half up front is non-refundable, and you have 60 days from the time I email you and say your army's done to pay me, or I will pay, or the army becomes, your property. Kind of think of it as a junkyard. If you don't take your car out of there, and you can't pay the fees to get it out or something, they'll sell your car for whatever it takes to pay your fees. So even if it's below what you would have paid, you do the same thing. I'll take your army and sell it on eBay to recoup that half that you're not paying me. So you tell them up front, them making a payment is them agreeing to your terms, and boom. And the reason you do it in email and not just on the phone, even if you talk to them on the phone, you still got to cut them at that email because it's documentation to cover you just in case legal problems happen. I've never had to deal with it, so it's good. But doing the half money up front thing, that separates all the people that aren't serious. They can say, oh, I'll pay you, could you just get me on the list? Nope, sorry, you have to pay to get on that list. And it works out great. So doing that, trading for models and stuff, I guess if you don't need the money, but cash is always good. You might change your mind on what you want to get, things might come up. Cash is nice. So that's pretty much it on the commission stuff. I mean, if you guys got more questions about commission, I think I hit the big ones. I know the biggest question was, how do I deal with prices, and how do I figure that out? And it's just, the time and how fast you can paint to a decent quality, and that's going to decide whether or not you're going to get paid the amount that you want. And if you can, set your standard, write it down and say, cool, base coat, wash, highlight, or wash, clean up, and then highlight, and then call it good. 3 colors and a wash on everything, and keep it at that level and knock them out quick, then you have a recipe to make pretty good money. So, but if you take on a lot more than you can, you're probably going to burn out, things like that. And if you make a bad name for yourself, it's going to be hard to bounce back from that. So be good to your customers, take care of what you need to take care of, and if you don't want time constraints on stuff, tell your customers that. Be like, hey, this is a side thing, this isn't my main source of income or whatnot, and you tell them, I'll get it to you in a reasonable amount of time, but I don't want time limits on it, and let it go from there. If you can get things done at a certain amount of time and deal with that stress, then go for it. Me, won't do it. You get your models when you get your models. So again, if you guys have any questions about commission stuff, go ahead and leave a question below, and I'm pretty sure I got everything. But if not, hey, we'll see it and get it in another video. So you guys have a good one.